So, I'm here today at the Beryl Pit. I thought I'd show you the little display case they have to show what you can find here. So, here's a bit of history. If you want to read that, you could just pause the video and read that. But the Beryl Pit, well, what it's really known for is it's a blue to greenish barrel that you can find, but you can also find some other stuff. You can find black Tourmaline, which is also known as schorl. You can find a couple radioactives, euxenite and columbite are the two main ones, and then you of course can find quartz and feldspar, and then peristerite. I don't know if you can see the shine, but these are some interesting specimens. And then garnet, fluorite, mica. So a good mix of stuff. I will show you the main pit area and then also some of the digging areas as well. So I'm just looking, these are some of the tailings piles. You can actually see this, the entrance of the pit over there in that direction. But I was just checking out these tailings piles and trying to get acclimated and stuff. And just see what I can see. And I found this. I believe this is a bit of schorl, some black tourmaline. But then I just looked down right over here. You see that? You see that greenish blue hexagonal piece? I found a bit of beryl already. It's not a whole crystal. Most of the specimens you'll find here won't be whole, but that's beryl. That's pretty cool. That's exciting. I'm happy about that. It's a good start to the day. So this is what I just found looking through the tailings piles of the at the entrance of the Beryl Pit. Here's that barrel that I found, or piece of barrel. I think this might be one too. It's got it's hexagonal, and it's not the shiny black kind of striated tourmaline that can be found here. So I'm thinking that's just a chunk of a kind of a not so nice piece. And then here's this little interesting squat, what I think is a little squat tourmaline crystal, but I could be wrong. I'll have to double check, look at the stuff. And this was just all found kind of on top of the tailings piles where people had been digging. So here's the actual pit of the Beryl Pit. You can see, and actually, while I was looking down there, I just saw this poking out at me. Let's see, get the sun on it. You can see that shape. So I kind of just gave it a couple light taps and exposed the rest of the beryl crystal in there. It's the nicest colored one I found so far, so it's pretty nice. And it was just right down in there, but from the people I've talked to, the bottom of the pit is pretty picked over, whereas the better spots are the kind of like the tailings piles at the entrance, and the higher up you go, the farther away from the actual trail, the better the luck is, or at least that's what people have told me. I thought I'd show you this cool little spot in the pit where you can actually see the barrel in the wall. You can see those hexagonal crystal structures, and you can see like the imprint left behind by a larger beryl crystal that was there. Some of it's still there, but pretty busted up, so somebody tried to get that out, or that happened when this part got blasted. But yeah, very cool. You can probably see a couple other spots where there's a barrel in the wall, kind of like the greeny blue hexagonal crystal structures. But yeah, this is just in the bottom of the pit. There's a spot where you can just see those beryl crystals still in the wall of the pit. I thought I'd show you this interesting little beryl specimen that I found. You can see actually there's two crystals in there. You can see the two hexagonal crystals, and then one carries through while the other does not. So this guy on the right actually is terminated somewhere in there. And if I can get home and try and carefully prep this guy, then maybe I can expose that termination, which would be pretty cool. I also found this actually. Nice chunk of amazonite. It's not as translucent as the stuff I collected in Norwood, which I kind of already knew. I've seen some of the Beryl Pit material before, especially the amazonite, and I kind of knew already beforehand that it's not as translucent as the Norwood material that I collected this year. So I went back to the same kind of tailings pile area I went to where I found my first piece of beryl, and check this guy out. It's got much more lovely color, bit of interesting crystal structure to it, and if you look at the middle, I hope that picks up. That middle part is more like of a translucent, transparent light blue. And then I found this big guy nearby. This is a really kind of like a, I'd say, the beryl crystal is starting to decompose, but man, this would have been a large one. I hope you can see that well. It's kind of hard for me to see if I'm in focus because it's so bright, so I can barely see the screen. Here's an interesting piece that I found. As you can see, it's there's a little bit of like a vug in the feldspar, and there's this really interesting kind of like golden sheen. So what I'm thinking this is it's a vug of small little feldspar crystals and larger feldspar chunk, and then within those feldspar crystals there's mica, probably like muscovite by the looks of it, that's trapped in the crystals, giving it that kind of golden sheen look. So I think what it is it's feldspar with mica encased in it, basically, if that makes sense. So I've just kind of been scratching around in these piles and stuff. I haven't even started digging yet. And actually I'd sat down for lunch. I had my lunch, and as I was looking around where I was eating my lunch, I found these guys. So here's a nice, just a chunk of feldspar with some nice tourmaline crystals in there. It's a good example of the shoral specimen, and there's some nice double terminated crystals in there. So I'm going to take this guy home. And I found this guy, which I think is beryl, or maybe it's a radioactive, one of those radioactive minerals. Sorry, it's kind of hard to do this with one hand. I think it might be just a beryl crystal that got flattened, so that's interesting. And then I got this little weird cubic crystal that I found. I don't think, maybe it's pyrite, but I don't think pyrite is found here, or if it is, it's in small amounts. Could this be one of those radioactives that I'm not too familiar with? It's just very interesting. It's a nice little rectangular cubic crystal. Check out what I just found just lying on the ground. It's actually having a lovely conversation with a rockhound, a fellow rockhound. She wasn't having a lot of luck, so I helped her out and gave her a couple pieces of amazonite and a piece of beryl. But we were talking, and I noticed this like right at our feet. I'm almost pretty sure that this is a really nice euxenite crystal. A pretty good, decent size. I've been finding euxenite, but it's been all kind of busted up in the feldspar, so I'm pretty happy that I could find like a whole crystal of it. And then I also found, it's hard to tell, but I wetted it down, and I'm almost pretty 99% sure this is a big chunk of beryl, kind of like a blue-green beryl. The way you tell this apart from the amazonite that you can find here, because there is amazonite, is that with the amazonite actually has perthitic growths, so it's got these stripes of like orange or white feldspar, and so that's how you can tell if you've got a green-blue rock and it doesn't have stripes. It's most likely probably going to be your beryl. And then I've got just this nice piece of peristerite. But yeah, I've been having lots of luck finding lots of interesting minerals and crystals and stuff. I hope I can find a nice big chunk of really nice colored beryl. I know that's super rare nowadays, but I'm hoping. I have said this so many times today, but I think I got a radioactive mineral. Maybe maybe columbite. It's definitely doesn't look like, doesn't have the striations of schorl, and it's partially terminated on one end, and the other end is busted. But the end that's terminated, it's kind of cut. Almost reminds me a little bit of like titanite. It's very flat and stuff. And if I remember, the examples I saw in the showcase were kind of flat too. But I think this may be another one of those radioactives. So I've been digging in here. I've had some good luck. Got 2 piles going with pretty decent sized find. It's interesting, it got squished, so it grew differently. So that's interesting. But this guy just popped out. It's a piece of beryl. It's almost like it's dark green. It's gone dark green, and one side is terminated. Now, doesn't seem like the terminations are exactly too sharp, but I know this is terminated because I've still got some of the Feldspar crystals that it grew in still stuck to it on the top. So I know that this end is the terminated end, which is pretty cool. It's a nice little beryl specimen. Pretty happy about that. Here are some of the Beryl Pit finds. I'll start off with a couple of the first 2 pieces of beryl I actually found. Both of them which have more crystally cores. I didn't see it on this one, but once I cleaned it up. Now, this is like a blue, these are blue-green beryls with kind of crystally cores, and I would say with this one, the crystalness is a nice blue, and it's gemmy enough that I would say that the core itself is actually aquamarine, which is basically gemmy blue beryl is would be classified as aquamarine. So these are some interesting, cool little finds, and these were like the first 2 pieces I found, and I found them just like on the tailings piles when I was looking. Here are a couple more interesting beryl specimens. You can see this one cuts through here. It's a decent size, and actually what's interesting is you see that little cubic crystal up there. That's actually a goethite pseudomorph after a pyrite crystal, which is kind of unique. And then here we have another one. This one actually has double hexagonal beryl crystals, and then this crystal here on the right side terminates somewhere in the feldspar, because I can only find the other end of this beryl crystal on this end, and another interesting unique piece. I had pretty good luck finding some cool beryl specimens, so I was pretty happy about that, and I also got lucky and found some other really cool mineral specimens. On to the black tourmaline, or schorl as people call it. I found this guy. This guy's interesting because you can see an interesting growth habit that occurs in tourmaline, where the crystal breaks and then reheals, and then it grows curved. And I've seen a couple examples of tourmaline specimens before that have this interesting curved growth pattern, which is pretty cool. Next, I have this somewhat damaged point of a schorl crystal. It had the best termination that I found out of all the schorl specimens that I found, so I thought I'd show it. But it's got some damage on the back, and a bit of the top has been chipped off, but it's just like this really nice glossy black striated tourmaline crystal. Then we have this very interesting lump of smoky quartz where you can actually see where the tourmaline crystals grew in with it. You see the striations, the imprints, and it's just got some nice black tourmaline crystals grown in with the quartz. So I thought this was a cool specimen to keep. Here we have some more goethite / pyrite specimens. We'll start with big guy. This guy's really cool because it's a goethite pseudomorph after pyrite, but the pyrite itself actually grew in with tourmaline. So you can see these really nice striations on the sides where the pyrite crystal grew up against the tourmaline, and then it got replaced by the goethite, but the striations stayed there because of that. The goethite just replaced the pyrite crystal itself. So that's a pretty unique little piece. Next is this really nice sharp rectangular cube of goethite. Once again, it's a pseudomorph after pyrite. And then we have this guy, which is actually what I would say is a partially pseudomorphized goethite specimen. So there's still some pyrite left, and you can kind of see it. So like the dark reddish brown is what I would consider the goethite. And then you've got the more golden, shiny silvery gold in some spots still, and that's a pyrite. So this is a partially pseudomorphized specimen, which is kind of cool and unique. It kind of grew really interesting in the matrix. This is how it grew. Like there's some interesting indentation, so it didn't fully grow out, but that could maybe just also be like the how the goethite replaced it. It was a partial replacement, so there's some interesting structure to it because of that partial replacement. These are some of the Feldspar specimens I took home. Here's just like a slab of amazonite, perthitic amazonite, with some orange Feldspar mixed in. Here's a piece of peristerite. It's hard to tell. Give me a second and I'll wet it down. You can see the blues and silvers in it. And then this guy is cool because the Schiller effect is what I would say almost rainbowy, but that's just because of the type of material and then the mixes of the blues and the silvers together. It's a very nice Schiller effect. Last but not least are the radioactives I collected, and here are some of the best ones. We'll start off with this guy. You can see this guy has a lovely euxenite crystal, euxenite Y to be specific, right there. And it's interesting, it seems like the radioactives, the Feldspar matrix they are found in is like this darker red. So that's maybe something that if you're at the Beryl Pit and you're looking, if you see chunks of dark orangey red Feldspar, that might mean that there's radioactives in there. This one, I'm unsure what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's a radioactive because it's got that darky red-orange Feldspar, and it's got the glossiness that like the euxenites seem to have, and some of the other radioactives seem to have. But it's interesting because like you can see kind of like it's got kind of like a cube shape to it, but it's not a full crystal. It's missing most of the crystal, but it's kind of this weird cubic shape. Maybe if one of you collectors who've been to the Beryl Pit, let me know what you think. Here, I think this is also a euxenite, though it could be maybe a kind of a small columbite, or maybe, yeah, I think this is euxenite, but I know that's radioactive. And it's got some other smaller crystals in here. Just another interesting, unique piece. Then we've got this guy. This guy was just laying out right on top of the tailings piles. A very nice, large, whole euxenite crystal. Good crystal shape, very well defined. You can see how it's shaped, how the crystal is grown. It's a very interesting crystal shape. Not very common, I would say. And then we've got this guy. This guy, I thought maybe he was columbite when I was there at the field, but I suspect this guy actually might be just a very thin, squarish allanite specimen, which is also another radioactive. But what's really interesting about this specimen, do you see right up top there, there's some kind of hexagonal, kind of brown crystal right up top there. I'll try and get some close-ups of it with my electronic microscope setup that I have with my computer. But this guy's got some interesting other little small radioactive specimens. But I think this is kind of like a lumpy, flat allanite crystal is my best bet. But any of you radioactive collectors out there, please let me know, and I'd be happy to get more information from you guys, because radioactives are not my specialty. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoy these types of videos, please do consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed already, and please consider liking if you haven't. I do arrowhead and rockhounding related videos, so if you like that type of stuff, please do subscribe. And thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.